We are aware about state of matter. We know most of the solids have definite shape and volume, and it changes only with slight difference in temperature and pressure. We are now starting with a new chapter, that is solid state. The smallest constituent particles of various solids are atoms, ions, or molecules. In this chapter, solid state, all the constituent particles of solid will be referred to as particles. The first topic that we are going to study under this chapter is isomorphism and polymorphism. If there is similarity or dissimilarity in the crystal structure of different solids, then it is termed as isomorphism or polymorphism. Let us now study these terms in detail. When two or more substances have the same crystal structure, then they are said to be isomorphous. The word iso means same. In these substances, the chemical composition has the same atomic ratio. For example, NaF and MgO. So there is one atom of sodium and one atom of fluoride, and one atom of magnesium and one atom of oxygen. Hence the ratio is 1:1. The second example is NaNO3 and CaCO3, that is sodium nitrate and calcium carbonate. Here there is one atom of sodium, one atom of nitrogen and three atoms of oxygen. Similarly, in calcium carbonate, one atom of calcium, one atom of carbon and three atoms of oxygen. Hence the ratio is 1:1:3. Next is polymorphism. If a single substance exists in two or more forms or crystalline structures, then it is called as polymorphous substance. They are formed under different conditions. For example, calcite and aragonite are two forms of calcium carbonate. Similarly, alpha quartz, beta quartz, and cristobalite are three different forms of silica. When polymorphism occurs in elements, it is called as allotropy. And the example is the three allotropic forms of carbon, that is diamond, graphite, and fullerene. Let us now study the classification of crystalline solids. Crystalline solids are classified into four types, namely ionic crystals, covalent network crystals, molecular crystals or solids, and metallic solids. First are the ionic crystals. Ionic solids have the following characteristics. The constituent particles of ionic crystals are charged ions, which means they have cations and anions. So cations are the ones which have positive charge and anions are the ones which have negative charge. And the cations and anions, they differ in size, so they won't be similar in size. The second characteristic is each ion of a given sign of charge is bonded to ions of opposite charge around it by Coulomb force. In other words, the particles of ionic crystals are held by electrostatic force of attraction between oppositely charged ions, which means in simple words I would say there is a force of attraction which exists between a positively charged particle and a negatively charged particle. Ionic crystals are hard and brittle. They have high melting points. Brittle means though they are hard, they can break easily. For example is the chalk. They are non-conductors of electricity in solid state. However, they are good conductors when melted or dissolved in water. So ionic solids, they do not conduct electricity in solid state, but when we dissolve them in water, they act as good conductors of electricity. Some examples of ionic solids are sodium chloride, that is NaCl, then you have K2SO4, that is potassium sulfate, calcium fluoride, that is CaF2, and KCl, that is potassium chloride. Next is covalent network crystals. Some characteristics of covalent network crystals are the constituent particles in covalent network solids are atoms, and the atoms in these crystals, They are linked by a continuous system of covalent bonds. Covalent bond is a chemical bond which involves sharing of electron pairs between atoms. Due to covalent bonding, it forms a rigid three-dimensional network which forms a giant molecule, and the entire crystal is a single molecule. Because of this rigid and strongly bonded structures, the covalent solids are very hard. In fact, they are hardest and most incompressible of all the materials. Incompressible means we cannot compress it. Also, the covalent network crystals have a high melting and boiling points. The electrons are localized in covalent bonds, which means they are restricted to a particular area and hence they are not mobile, which means that they cannot move. And since there are no electrons which are freely moving, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Some examples of covalent network crystals are diamond, quartz, boron nitride, and carborundum. Carborundum has a crystal structure which is similar to diamond and it is also hard. Next are molecular crystals. Substances like chlorine, methane, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, oxygen on solidification gives molecular crystals. Crystalline organic compounds are also called as molecular solids. The characteristics of molecular crystals are: the constituent particles of molecular solids are molecules of the same substance. The bonds between these molecules, they are covalent, which means they are formed by sharing of electrons. These molecules are held together by various intermolecular forces of attraction. For example, the weak dipole-dipole interaction, then you have the very weak dispersion or the London forces, and intermolecular hydrogen bonds. The weak dipole-dipole interactions are observed in polar molecules like HCl, H2O and SO2, which possess the permanent dipole moment. Now, polar molecules are those molecules which have the positive as well as negative poles, that is the positive and negative sign. So if we consider H2O, H has the positive sign and O has the negative sign. Similarly for HCl, H has a positive sign and Cl has a negative sign. So they have the permanent dipole moment. Dipole means two poles. The very weak dispersion or London forces, they are observed in non-polar molecules like solid methane and hydrogen. Non-polar molecules means they have the similar signs like CH4. So carbon also has positive sign and hydrogen also has a positive sign. So these forces, they are involved in monoatomic solids like argon and neon. The intermolecular hydrogen bonds are observed in solids like water, that is in solid state, so ice, then you have ammonia, hydrogen fluoride, etc. Hydrogen bond is an electrostatic force of attraction which exists between hydrogen and any electronegative element in the vicinity. So it could be oxygen, fluoride, nitrogen, etc. Because of weak intermolecular attractive forces present in the molecular solids, they are usually soft substances and they have a low melting point. These solids are also poor electrical conductors and are good insulators. Insulator is a material where the electrons do not flow freely. Next are the metallic crystals. Metallic crystals are crystalline solids which are formed by atoms of the same metallic elements and they are held together by a metallic bond. What is a metallic bond? Now, if you observe a solid metal, there are valence electrons which are delocalized over the entire crystals, leaving behind positively charged metal ions. Delocalized means they do not have a fixed place and they keep on moving. And this is the reasons that metal crystals, they are often described as an array of positive ions immersed in a sea of mobile electrons. The attractive interactions which are present between cations, that is the positive metal ions, and the mobile electrons, they are negative in nature. They form the metallic bonds. Metals are malleable, that means they can be hammered into thin sheets. Then metals are ductile, means we can convert them into wires. and they are good conductors of heat and electricity. Thermal means heat. Here is a table which gives the summary of all the four types of crystalline solids. So first we have the types, that is ionic solids, covalent network solids, molecular and metallic solids, and then we have the properties. The first property is particles of unit cell. For ionic solids it is cations and anions. For covalent network solid it is covalently bonded atoms. For molecular solids it is monoatomic or polyatomic molecules, and for metallic solids it is metallic ions in sea of electrons. Second property is the interparticle forces, that is the force that exists between the two particles, that might be the atoms or ions. So for ionic solid it is electrostatic force of attraction. In covalent network solid it is covalent bond. In molecular solids we have the London dispersion forces, the dipole-dipole forces and hydrogen bonds. In metallic solids we have the metallic bonds. Next property is regarding hardness. So ionic solids, they are hard and brittle. Covalent network solids are very hard. Molecular solids are soft, and metallic solids, they are soft and also hard. Next property is regarding the melting point. It is high for ionic solids in the range of 600 degrees Celsius to 3000 degrees Celsius. For covalent network solids, the melting points are high in the range of 1200 degrees Celsius to 4000 degrees Celsius. For molecular solid, it is low, ranging between minus 272 degrees Celsius to 400 degrees Celsius. And metallic solids, they have a wide range for melting points, starting from minus 39 degrees Celsius to 3400 degrees Celsius. The next property is regarding the thermal and electrical activity. So ionic solids, they are poor conductors in solid state, but when we melt them or form an aqueous solution, then they are good conductors of water. Covalently network solids, they are poor conductors. Molecular solids are also poor conductors of heat and electricity. Metallic solids are good conductors of heat and electricity. Now examples of ionic solids are sodium chloride and calcium fluoride. Examples of covalent network solids are diamond and silica. Molecular solid is ice and benzoic acid, and metallic solid is sodium, magnesium, copper and gold. Now we move on to the next topic under this chapter, that is crystal structure. The ordered three-dimensional arrangement of particles in a crystal is described using two terms. First, lattice, and second is basis. Lattice is the geometrical arrangement of points in a three-dimensional periodic array. A crystal structure is formed when the constituent particles attach to the lattice points. These constituent particles, which are attached to the lattice point, forms the basis of the crystal structure. Crystal lattice is also called as the space lattice of the crystal. Here is a picture which shows how the crystal is formed. So lattice along with the basis forms the crystal. The next important topic under this chapter is unit cell. The smallest repeating structural unit of a crystalline solid is called as the unit cell. So a number of unit cells come together to form a crystal. So each unit cell is going to share its face, edge and corner with another unit cell. Hence it is very important to understand the geometric shape of a unit cell. For example, we know that the crystals, they have a cubic shape. So the constituent particles of the unit cell will arrange themselves to form a cubic shape. This is a picture which shows the unit cell parameters. The dimensions of the unit cell, they are measured across three axes, namely A, B and C. The angles between these three axes A, B and C are denoted as alpha, beta and gamma respectively. There are four types of unit cells, which are primitive or simple unit cell, body-centered unit cell, face-centered unit cell and base-centered unit cell. First is the simple or primitive unit cell. In this unit cell, the constituent particles are present only at the corners. In body-centered unit cell, Constituent particles are present at the corner and one constituent particle is present in the center of the unit cell. In face-centered unit cell, particles are present at the corners and one particle is present between the center of each of the faces. In base-centered unit cell, there are constituent particles present at the corner. Apart from this, there are two constituent particles which are present on the opposite face. So this is how the cubic unit cells look like. First is SC, that is the simple cubic unit cell, wherein we have 8 constituent particles at the corner. Then is BCC, that is body centered unit cell. So apart from the 8 constituent particles at the corners, we have one constituent particle in the center. Next is FCC, that is face centered cubic, wherein there are constituent particles at the corners, but at each face there is one constituent particle in the center. By mathematical analysis, it was proved that only 14 types of different crystal lattices are possible. In simple way, it means that there are 14 ways in which similar points can be arranged in three-dimensional order. These 14 crystal lattices, which describe the crystal structure, are called as Bravais lattice. These 14 Bravais lattices are further divided into 7 crystal structures based upon the 3 axes, that is A, B and C, and also the angles that lie between them, that is alpha, beta and gamma. The 7 crystals are namely cubic, tetragonal, orthorhombic, rhombohedral, monoclinic, triclinic and hexagonal systems. We are already aware about the cubic systems. We know that there are 3 kinds of unit cells which are present in the cubic system, that is primitive or the simple cubic, which is also called as the SC. Then you have the body centered cubic, that is BCC, and the face centered cubic, that is FCC. The simple cubic unit cell, it has a particle each at the 8 corners of a cube, while body centered cubic unit cell, it has particles at the 8 corners and one extra particle in the center of the cube. And face center cubic unit cell, it has 8 particles at the 8 corners of the cube. In addition to that, it has particles at the center of each of the 6 faces. Now, we are going to study about the number of particles in each of the cubic unit cells.
Calculations of number of particles in a unit cell. A crystal lattice is made up of a very large number of unit cells. Each unit cell is touching a number of other unit cells. In a unit cell, every lattice point is occupied by one constituent particle. Thus, a constituent particle present at the lattice point may be shared by a number of unit cells. Let us now understand the contribution of a particle in a lattice point to its unit cell. A corner atom is shared equally by 8 unit cells. 4 unit cells are present in the lower layer and 4 unit cells are present on the upper layer. Therefore, each corner atom contributes only 1/8 atom to a particular unit cell. A face-centered atom is shared equally by 2 unit cells, having a common face. Therefore, an atom present at the center of the face of a unit cell contributes half atom to each unit cell. A body-centered atom is not shared by any adjacent unit cell in a crystal lattice. Therefore, it contributes fully to a unit cell. A edge-centered atom is shared by 4 adjacent unit cells in the crystal lattice. 2 unit cells are present in the lower layer and 2 unit cells are present on the upper layer. Therefore, it contributes only 1/4 of itself to a unit cell. Calculation of number of atoms per unit cells in primitive cubic unit cell. Simple cube. In simple cubic unit cell, there are 8 corners in a cube. There is one atom at each corner of the cube. Since each corner atom is shared equally by 8 unit cells, hence each corner atom contributes 1/8 atom to each unit cell. Number of atoms in one simple cubic unit cell is equal to 8 into 1 by 8, which is equal to 1 atom. A simple cubic unit cell contains 1 atom. Calculation of number of atoms per unit cells in body-centered cubic unit cell. In a body-centered unit cell, there are 8 atoms at each corner positions and 1 atom at its body center. As each atom at the corner position contributes 1/8 to the unit cell, the contribution of those 8 corner atoms to the unit cell is 1 atom. The atom at the center of the unit cell is not shared by any other unit cell. Thus, its contribution to its unit cell is whole. Hence, the number of atoms per body-centered unit cell is 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. 8 corner atoms into 1 by 8 is equal to 1 atom. One body-centered atom is equal to 1 into 1, which is equal to 1 atom. Therefore, number of atoms per unit cell is equal to 2 atoms. Thus, a body-centered cubic unit cell contains 2 atoms of an element. Calculation of number of atoms per unit cells in face-centered cubic unit cell. In a face-centered cubic unit cell, there are 8 atoms at the corner positions and 1 atom at the center of every face of the cube. As each atom at the corner position contributes 1/8 to the unit cell, the contribution of these 8 corner atoms to the unit cell is 1 atom. Each atom at the face center is shared between 2 adjacent unit cells. Thus, the contribution of 6 such face-centered atoms to the unit cell is 6 into 1 by 2, which is equal to 3. Therefore, the total number of atoms per face-centered unit cells is 1 plus 3, which is equal to 4. 8 corner atoms into 1 by 8 is equal to 1 atom. 6 face-centered atoms into 1 by 2 atom per unit cell equal to 6 into 1 by 2, which is equal to 3 atoms. Therefore, total number of atoms per unit cell is equal to 4 atoms. The face-centered cubic unit cell contains 4 atoms of an element.
So I hope you all are clear regarding the calculations of number of atoms in a unit cell. Next is the relationship between molar mass, density of the substance and the unit cell edge length. We have to take the edge length of a cubic unit cell as A. So the volume will be A cube. Suppose that mass of one particle is m and there are n number of particles in the one unit cell, then the mass of unit cell can be written as mass of one particle into that of n number of particles. So we can write it as equal to m into n. The density of the unit cell, which is represented by rho, is the same as the density of the substance. So rho is equal to mass of unit cell divided by volume of unit cell. So we already have mass of unit cell, that is m into n, and the volume is a cube, and this is equal to the density of substance. The molar mass, which is denoted by capital letter M, of the substance is given as molar mass is equal to mass of one particle into number of particles per mole, that is Na, and Na is the Avogadro's number. Hence we will write it as capital M, that is molar mass, is equal to mass, that is M, into Na. So if we take the mass out, we will get it as molar mass divided by Avogadro's number. Let us now consider the density equation, that is rho is equal to m into n divided by a cube. We already have the substitution for m, that is capital M divided by Na. So we are going to substitute this in the place of m. N will remain as it is, divided by a cube. So by knowing the 4 parameters, the 5th parameter also can be calculated.